And like the team principals are a big personality now, and Zach has probably got the biggest personality out of all the team principals. So I guess like it's almost not just the drivers anymore. The team principals become a part of the media circus, I guess. So that seems to be something else that needs to be managed within the team and how they manage the drivers. But Zach's been, always said that he's got 2 number 1 drivers, which, I technically is probably why they put Papaya Rules in place, right? Like give you guys an equal chance on track. So you must be confident knowing that going into next season, you've got an equal chance to sort of start again.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, there's obviously been a lot of kind of talk about how we go racing as a team, and there's kind of always evolution to that and adjustments. But I think what I respect a lot is that trying to have 2 number 1 drivers and have 2 very equal drivers from just ability and speed is a very difficult thing to manage, especially when obviously the team want to win the Constructors' Championship and they want one of us to win the Drivers' Championship, and they honestly don't care who, but obviously as drivers we do care who that is. So it's a tough thing to do, and I respect kind of how much effort the team have put into trying to maintain that. There's obviously going to be scenarios where ultimately someone is going to feel hard done by, but I think knowing that trust and the intentions are good, that's a really important thing for me. And there's probably going to be some adjustments of how we go through things. At the end of every season you review what's gone well, what's not gone well. Have we caused some problems for ourselves that we didn't need to at times? Probably. So I think there'll be kind of an evolution of that, but I think ultimately you want that equal opportunity, because if they choose one or the other, there's a 50% chance it's not going to be me. So it's a challenging thing for sure, but no, I think we've always been able to talk very openly about how we think, how we feel, how we can do things better, and that's a really important thing for me.
And the last 2 races of the season, obviously you brought that gap back down to Lando. So speaking of the season, it sort of ebbed and flowed. You led most of the championship, let's say. I guess, what was in the last 2 races? You sort of came back at Qatar. I mean, I know that's been a good circuit for you in the past. Those flyway races before that haven't always lent themselves to be your favourite circuits.
Yeah.
Did you kind of expect that going into it? Did you know that they were going to be challenging for you still?
I think kind of the general narrative is that there was a kind of a slump of 4 or 5 races, which when you look at the results is kind of true. But what actually kind of happened was there was a few things on the how we managed some situations that took probably more effort than you'd want to try and resolve, and that was kind of one problem. But there was then another problem not off the back of that, but kind of immediately after, where when we went to Austin and Mexico, for whatever reason, you could drive the car very differently to what we had the rest of the year. And we don't really have an explanation for that. We can kind of see what was different, and the main answer is the tires, which if there's an F1 team that manages to work out how tires work, they're going to win everything forever. So that was kind of a secondary problem that was unfortunate. And I think the last couple of races things went back to normal, let's say, and just very different circuits. So it was nice to finish the year on a much better note from a performance point of view. The last 2 races weren't exactly straightforward either, not our best strategy choices, let's say. No. But to kind of get back to where I had been earlier in the year from a performance point of view was a nice way to end it off, even if the results didn't quite go exactly how I wanted.
Yeah, and I think with, like, you talked to performance before, like you and Lando have similar driving styles, but there seems to be circuits like you're better in that medium to high speed stuff. Circuits like Silverstone and Qatar and so forth, they lend themselves to your driving style. Why is that?
Like, Lando and I generally want similar things from the car, which is nice, but our reasons for wanting them are a bit different. So naturally, I am just more comfortable in kind of the medium and high speed corners. Why? I don't know, but
I know.
Yeah, there's kids around, so. But bravery is the word. So yeah, those are just the kind of corners that I naturally am quick in, and it probably takes me a little bit more effort and time to get the most lap time out of the slow speed corners, whereas Lando is a little bit more of the opposite. You know, kind of naturally gets time out of the slow speed, but takes him a bit longer to get time out of the high speed corners. So that's actually pretty helpful for both of us, because I can, you know, fast track my learning of how to try and make myself quicker in the low speed corners. He can then try and learn off me in the quicker stuff. And Qatar and Abu Dhabi are kind of more in the direction of medium and high speed corners. Qatar especially, you know, it's pretty much every corner is incredibly quick. So naturally that kind of helps. And that's just been a bit of a trait through my career, I would say, and a trait through Lando's career. So yeah, we just have to work a bit harder to find each other's strengths basically. And normally it ends up being pretty tight by the time we get to qualifying.
Yeah, it's always tight, and you seem to build yourself up over the weekend, and quali seems to be when you put it together. Lando's sort of gone the other way this year. He's sort of fast out of the box and sometimes makes those critical errors in Q3. But I guess, you know, 24 races in a season, like how do you sort of look at the season at the very beginning, and do you sort of plan out in your head like where your strongest races are that you probably don't need to put as much work into, and work on those sort of critical races where you know you need to be challenging?
Yeah, I think at the end of every season you kind of identify which races have gone, you know, you kind of identify both ends of the spectrum. You identify which races have gone really well, which have not gone very well. To be honest with you, the races that were my worst in 2024 were often actually my best this year. So China, for example, was one of my toughest races in 2024 and one of my best this year. Bahrain, probably a similar thing. Barcelona. There was a few races that sucked in both years, but there was kind of a weird trend that the races that were terrible in 2024 were my best, so in 2025. So I think some of that is just circumstance, but there probably is a correlation of, you know, we put a bit more effort into those races, or there was more obvious things for us to go looking for. You know, I think from 2023 to 2024, I took a good step forward, but from 2024 to 2025, I took a really big step forward, and that's what we're trying to do again from 2025 to 2026. And if we can achieve the same kind of step up, then I'm pretty excited about how next year can look.
That's really awesome. Hopefully the car's competitive, and you and Lando can be battling out at the front with maybe George and Kimi in there as well if the Mercedes are fast. So your fame's risen over the last 3 years. What's it like now when you step sort of outside of F1 paddock? You obviously probably still travel a bit. You spend a bit of time in the UK. Like, how does that go for you now?
It's definitely changed a little bit. I think, you know, when I first joined F1, I could pretty much just go around anywhere and not be noticed. It's a bit different now. I gotta, you know, plan out a lot more of where I go, and you know, for example, it was my sister's birthday yesterday, and my mum decided to book dinner at the Espy.
Probably not the best place in Melbourne to go for dinner.
Which, when she told me that, I was kind of like, okay, that could be interesting, but she was very organised and got us kind of through the back entrance, and yeah, in a pretty private area. So, you know, little things like that where, you know, having to organise different entrances, for example, or thinking about places you can and can't go, that's different, and that is, you know, for, you know, right or wrong, is just part of my life now. I think the reasons for that are obviously pretty cool, and it's part of, you know, being on the world stage, but it does make things a little bit more difficult. I've not been out and about that much since I got home, but yeah, I'm expecting it to probably look a little bit different this time around compared to last year. But again, it's part of being on the world stage, and ultimately, you know, it's a good problem to have. So yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, we expect you to be just as much a Netflix star come February than an F1 driver.
Yeah, exactly.
So, still the boom mic following you around in
yes.
paddock a bit this year. So what are your plans over summer? You going to spend some time with your mum, obviously, your sisters, and
Yep.
your dad?
Yes, mainly see my family. That's the biggest thing, for me. This is my annual trip home. So I'm back for about 3 weeks. We're going to go up to Queensland in the new year, which is nice. Hopefully the weather's a bit more reliable than here. But yeah, just seeing my family and seeing some of my friends. That is unfortunately one of the more difficult parts, being from Australia and competing in any international sport doesn't make getting home very easy, and especially with how long our season is now and the short gaps in between races. This is the only time I've got basically to actually see my family apart from waving to them on the racetrack. So just spending time with them and hanging out and kind of decompressing from the year and ultimately recharging the batteries for next year. It's kind of easy to look at an F1 season as, you have the season and then you go away and then you come back for the next one. But the gaps now between seasons are so short that, if you don't maximize the time you've got in between seasons, you don't if you get that wrong, it's not just one season you then impact the next season, and then you've got to try and, deal with that for 9 or 10 months and then try and recover it at the end. So, it puts pressure on your time off in some ways and spending it wisely.